Right. Hi, everyone. My name is Martin Pereira. I will introduce myself in a bit. However, that's all that you have to know for now. So my name is Martin. I am a medical student. I go to university, and I scored quite well in the BMAT. So my score was 6.895A. So I would say that I have quite the experience to help you guys to score quite highly. I've been studying the BMATs every single year since 2019, at least twice a year. Well, with COVID, which is twice a year, but I usually talk it both February and the October/November BMATs because I just like to be up to date with the tests. So some of you guys might recognize me because I also ran the Jesus College, like the official Oxford webinar for the BMATs this year. That was Dr. Matthew Williams. Can't see the name. Dr. Matthew Williams. How can I not see that name? Oh dear. Yeah, lisp moment for some reason. Or just stuttering. Right. I just went off tangent. So, anyways, as I was saying, I have quite a lot of experience, but we'll get onto my qualifications in a second. So, have you guys started preparing for the BMAT, and how long have you guys been preparing for? And do you get any support from your school or from your friends? Do you have a tutor? Do you have a mentor? What are you using as? I'm quite curious to know what everyone is up to nowadays, because the BMAT is in 6/7 weeks, give or take. So you don't have a lot of time. So it's worth bearing that in mind as well. Okay, so let's just read the chat real quick. Okay, so that's perfect. Some people have been doing a bit of prep, so recovering GCSE content and also doing some TSA papers, TSA Oxford Section 1. Perfect. That's why I recommend it. Okay, so BMAT Ninja, some have been doing a bit of critical thinking, moving to problem solving now. Okay. Okay, so one question to start. So how many days, months should we start revising ideally? I recommend 3 months. And before you start panicking, I say 3 months because most of you will probably be in year 13. So you have A-levels to worry about. So you have interviews, you have UCAS. You probably have, your own personal life. You might have a job. You might have to do some extra revision. You might just want to socialize a little bit. You might have your own commitments and hobbies. So the reason why I say 3 months is because in the first month, so I started preparing my own students because I also tutor people as well, and we started in June and we did 1 hour every single day basically. Then in July we did 2 hours a day. In August we went to 4 hours a day, and now most of the students now they are pretty much done with BMAT revision. So they have September to do some passive revision. Let's just do past papers. Like they finished strategies, they finished contents, and they are getting good scores already. Some of my students are already getting 6, 7s, 8s, and one of them even got a 9 in one past paper, 2019. So yeah, I would say that works. You can do it in like 1 to 2 months. However, it's really hard. And also bear that in mind that those students that I'm working with, they have someone who's been through the process and has 9. So I know exactly what it takes to get there in the most efficient way. Most of you might just be doing this by yourselves. So, that's why I recommend 3 months, because, if you don't have the right guidance and someone to really guide you through the process, it can be really daunting and it's quite tricky to get a high score. It's not impossible. Many people every year do it. But remember, guys, those people are the exception, not the rule. Okay, so people have been using BMAT Ninja. They've been on a BMAT course. Some people don't get zero support from school. Some people have been revising Section 2, reading books, prepare for Section 3. Good. Okay. BMAT course. Good stuff. Awesome. Okay, so there's a question here, and I'll be answered in a bit. Right, so someone asks, is it not too late for 3 months? Well, it is. However, the thing is, most students, they prepare too late. They start their prep way too late. So, as far as I'm concerned, all of you are, you know, on the same place. Well, most of you at least. However, the recommended amount, like the amount where you can prepare properly from like 3s to 4s or below to like a 6, 7, or even an 8 or 9 is about 3 months. And there's a reason for this, and I'll go over this reason in a bit. But without further ado, we shall start the surgery properly. Okay, so before we start, if you would like to talk to me, you are welcome to message me on WhatsApp through the 6MED group chats. I'm one of the admins in the 2023 group chats. If you have any questions about the surgery or any concern or feedback, send them to team@6med.co.uk as well. Recordings and slides will be available on 6med.co.uk/QA surgery. So yeah. Okay, so who am I? And some of you might be thinking, okay, so this person looks completely different. And yes, so nowadays I have curly hair, and I'm wearing a Liverpool shirt. Yeah, you guys can't read, you can see it, hopefully. So yeah, quite the contrast. Okay, but who is this guy? You might be thinking, okay, so who is this Martin dude? Okay, so I'm an education consultant, and you might be thinking, okay, so what is an education consultant? So essentially, it's like a tutor, but we take it to the next level. So we work a lot of data, and we work with lots of areas. So I help students to get into the best universities in the UK and overseas. So for example, let's say you want to apply to America, to Harvard, MIT, Stanford, Yale, Cornell, or you want to study, let's say, in Italy, in University of Bocconi, or you want to go to Singapore, to NUS or NTU, or you want to go to, Hong Kong, to Chinese University of Hong Kong or Hong Kong University to study medicine or engineering or law or whatever. Well, that's what I do. But I also work with other areas. So I work with schools quite a lot. So if schools have any concerns on or they want to improve their departments, I essentially also train teachers as well. I help students get into boarding schools as well, and some, for example, schools that require scholarships and entrance exams. I also do A-levels, Olympiads, competitions, debating. I do loads of things, basically. It's like what an education consultant is. We're like experts in everything that we do, essentially. So I don't just tutor one area. And I also work with schools. I advise them. I also develop curriculums. I'm a school governor, etc. And what I appreciate, it sounds like a LinkedIn post. This all will make sense in a sec. Okay, so I'm also a member of the IACAC, which is the International Association for College Admissions Counselors. So the IACAC is essentially a network with 3,000 members. Most of them are universities. So there are about 1,000 universities worldwide, along with about other 1,500 schools. So they're usually private schools and boarding schools or international schools across the globe. And then you have like a really small number of people who got invited by those universities and schools. And I was one of them. So I'm the youngest IACAC member as well. So the benefits of this are that I have direct access to the people from the admissions team. So for example, let's say that you get any questions on, what it takes to get into, let's say, Oxford or Cambridge. Well, I would have the the personal contact details of the representative for that university. And I can ask him pretty much everything. So it's like having access to the admissions tutors and admissions officers one-to-one, essentially. So instead of you emailing all of them and it takes ages to reply, I just send a personal email, they reply really quickly. So yeah, those are the benefits. And we also get to meet up and connect. So that allows me to really know the ins and outs of the application process. So I've also partnered with Jesus College at the University of Oxford. As I said, some of you might have seen me where I made that BMAT video with Dr. Matthew Williams. It's called Ace the BMAT, Martin Barrera times University of Oxford. It's on YouTube as well if you want to watch that. So as I've said, I support students with international universities. I help students get into law, medicine, engineering, you name it, liberal arts, you name it. Also apprenticeships. So I'm an expert in all. I know it's a bit of a weird one calling myself an expert, but I guess it's still accurate. So I know all the ins and outs of the BMAT, the UCAT, interviews, personal statement, panel and MMI interviews, and even the course structure as well, and more. If you want to watch some of my YouTube channel videos, once you go to the slides, you can click on this link. It's over here. You can't see it, but it's Martin Pereira Pathways. So it's Martin Pereira Pathways. The M, the P, and the P, they're all capitals. Everything else is not a capital. But yeah. So I took 8 A-levels. I know that sounds like a lot. I regret it. That was my year 11 self thinking, okay, so I took loads of GCSEs, you know. How hard can A-levels really be? I loved science, loved maths, and languages, so I picked all of them. I did really well in all of them, but I do not recommend doing this. And yeah, I also wrote some BMAT books and taught the BMAT for hundreds. No, it's more like thousands now of hours. And yeah, it's my website, and that's my email here if you have any questions as well. Right. So I own a subreddit. So it's a free community which provides free advice to students applying to BMAT universities worldwide. So we are used now by over 1 in 2 BMAT candidates. So we have about 10 to 20,000 visits every year from schools, parents, and students. Also, don't forget to check out 6MET, just a quick plug from them. So I've made a frequently asked questions guide. So some of you might be asking, okay, so what's the BMAT? What's a good school? So do you remember that person that asked me, okay, what's a good school for Oxford? Well, if you read this over here, a good school for Oxford and Cambridge, Oxbridge is a 6. A high 5 is great for other BMAT universities. So those questions are asked so many times. So I've made a whole comprehensive guide on everything they have to know BMAT-wise. So that includes how do I prepare? You know, what are the good resources? How much time should I give myself to prepare? Or is it possible to prepare in, say, a month? What if I don't have help from someone else? What can I do? So yeah, hopefully, you know, when you get the slides as well, you also can go to the subreddit, and you can see it's like the pins. It's like right at the top. The post. It's called BMAT Preparation Frequently Asked Questions. So yeah, hopefully all of you should check that out. Highly recommend it. It took me ages to write this. Okay, so now what will we get away with from the surgery? So first things first, you'll leave with some concise info. So what you must learn without wasting time. So that's the benefit of having a tutor. So I've done the research for you, so you don't have to do it. Also, if you have any answers, or like if you want any answers to your queries, you know, just feel free to ask away. So yeah, I kind of just mix them myself. So if you have any questions, just ask away, or you can send them to this email here as well, and I'll go over some questions as well. Okay, so someone just sent me a private message asking why I have a Liverpool shirt if I support Liverpool. Well, fun fact: my cousin just plays for Liverpool, so his name is Fabio Carvalho. He just plays for Liverpool, like the main team. So yeah, I went to watch the game of Liverpool against Bournemouth yesterday. It was fun. But yeah, just a bit of a fun fact about myself. Okay, so to be honest, so I would argue it's one of the best tests you'll ever take, ever. Make sure that you enjoy the journey, because I can assure you that year 12 and year 13 are the best years. Coming from someone in university, I've looking back at, like, you know, high school, college, and university, year 12 and year 13 was so fun. Now it's like, but guys, those summer schools, those work placements, you know, finding out what you want to do, preparing for that process, it's so fun to look back at it. So make the most out of it. Don't see it as a core, to however you want to pronounce it, but see it more as a you know, as a journey. Okay, so yep, 9-0. So what is the BMAT? So the BMAT is a 2-hour paper-based test comprising. What is it comprising? Who changed this? Compromising. Can't have things in Detroit. So it has 3 sections. So the fees for this year are 75 quid for, you know, UK students, and 100 for those outside of the UK. Also, bear in mind it's not just this cost. So you have, this is the price to register for the tests. If you want to register, privately in a test center, you have to pay more because you have to pay invigilation fees. You have to pay for the whole, admin fees, which are just, a way to justify charging you more, essentially. Booking fees, all of those things. So yeah, if it's for your school and they're not charging you more, they should charge you 75 quid. If they're nice, they'll even pay this for you. But if they don't, you might have to pay at least 75 quid. But you can get bursaries. So if you are from a low income background, you can apply for a bursary. So that means if you receive EMA, if you have refugee status, asylum seeking status, if you receive pupil premium as well, and there are some other ones that I can't quite recall at the moment. I believe if you were to care as well, you're also eligible for a bursary. It's on the website, by the way. So we have 3 sections. Section 1, critical thinking and problem solving, multiple choice questions. So there are 16 of each. Section 2, we have biology, chemistry, physics, and maths. So we have 7, 7, 7, and 6 questions, respectively, for each. And then section 3 is the essay writing section. So you have 3 essays. None of them is philosophical. The second one it's more about science. And the third one is either ethics, medical related, or both. If you want to look at these dates, they do update sometimes, but I don't think they will update it this year because they've already confirmed them. But I would just recommend keeping an eye on this website. Just put BMAT, important dates, key dates, all dates and costs on Google. You'll find this. So you can register for the BMAT from the 1st of November until, usually it's about the 30th of September. So you can register on the 30th, which is a lot earlier than usual. So in previous years, you were able to register in the UCAS deadline, but as the BMAT is happening on the 18th, so it's not in November. Last year and the year before that, it was in November. This year is in October. So it's the October BMAT. So this year is happening on the 18th of October, 2022. And this is huge, guys, for a reason. So when is half term for everyone here? When do you have half term in October? When does your half term start? Do you guys have any ideas? I'm quite curious now. So have you done your research? When is half term in year 13? Anyone, guys? Okay, so for one school it's the 17th. Someone else is it 21st, 20th, 18th. So yeah, before that, so it's around your test date, okay? However, before that, it was November. So what does this actually mean? Did you have more or less time to revise? You had that entire period of half term to revise for the tests. So you had about 2 weeks to prepare. You can do 10 hours a day of revision during that time period. However, because the BMAT is happening on the 18th, that is no longer the case. You do not have that window to cram just BMAT. Now you have to balance the BMAT with A-levels, interviews, UCAT if you do UCAT in September, and also interview preparation, both MMI and panel if you're doing both, along with your personal commitments. So, you have less time. You don't have loads of time. But this is an opportunity because those who prepare early and get the right guidance will get the biggest advantage. And I've been saying this for the past 3 months now. Those who get guidance will have such an unfair advantage this year. It's just reality, guys. I'm not trying to sugarcoat anything. Those who have tutors, those who want to go to courses, those who go the extra mile and are actually revising early, those people will get the highest scores this year. Whereas everyone else used to have that, that whole half-term period. They used to do 8-10 hours a day just doing section 2 knowledge guides revision. They used to do papers. They used to, go to some courses also a bit late. So they used to do loads of things. But now, you've lost about 200 hours of possible revision that you could have done from the half term. So it is a lot, guys. People used to do 10 hours of revision for like 14 days straight. It was crazy back then. Unfortunately, you do not have this. So I recommend that you organize yourselves because there are loads of people, by the way. So my students, we started revising in June. So most of you are starting now, which is fine. Don't get me wrong. Most people are starting now. However, you don't want to be the average, do you? Because if you are the average, you will not get into the your universities that you want to get into. Most of you will apply to Oxford and Cambridge, or Imperial, or UCL. And those units are not looking for students who are average. They're looking for the best students. So in order to become the best, you have to prepare like you're the best, which is, you have to prepare early, you have to get the right guidance, you use the correct resources. But yeah, so your resources, your results will be given to you on the 25th of November 2022, and universities will shortlist you from the 18th of November, so a week before your BMAT results, all the way to March 2023. So Cambridge, they start shortlisting you a week before to 2 weeks after. Sometimes they shortlist before you get your results. So it might be a bit daunting at the start. So just worth bearing that in mind. If you see people on TSR saying, "Oh, guys, I got an interview. Can I get an offer with 995A? I'm so scared. I messed up my BMAT." They might be talking. They might, while this score might be great exaggerators, some people might be actually getting, interview invitations before results. That is possible, and I've seen it. You guys will be surprised with the amount of great things that happen during admissions. So this year I had one student. Yes, so universities do get your results before this, so they have time to actually review them, so they can prepare the whole process essentially. So it gives them time to prepare interviews, to look for students, to get the interview questions ready. So it gives them that kind of space to process your application. So yes. Okay. Okay, so section 1, as I've said, so it's called thinking skills. So you have problem solving and critical thinking. You have 32 multiple choice questions. You have an hour to do that. So it's about 1 minute and 53 seconds. Yes, I've memorized the number. I've said it so many times. I've memorized it. So 1 minute and 52.8 seconds, or 53 seconds, if you want to be concise, per question. If you know the correct strategies, there's plenty of time. You'll have like about 10 minutes left, maybe even 20. I've met students who did section 1 in 40 minutes, 40. Section 2, 27 questions in 30 minutes. That is tough for most students. It is quite tough. But again, the thing is, section 3 is not hard, guys. If you've learned your physics and you know your contents and you know your strategies, it's very doable. The reason why most students struggle is because they do not have the foundations. They were taught poorly at GCSE, so they don't actually understand the contents. So that means that, they also have poor exam strategy. So because of that, they just, they look at questions like, okay, what do I have to do? Whereas students don't really know what to do. Look at the question like, okay, so units, this is what we do here. And they get the question right straight away. So yeah, there is like a difference. There's a very small but noticeable difference in the high level students compared to your average and your low level students. I myself, I completed section 2 in 20 minutes when I got a 9 in BMAT. So I did BMAT in 2021. I got a 9. So yeah, I remember people usually they remember. I remember them saying something like, "Oh, there is no way you could do section 2 in 20 minutes." No, guys, it is very possible. It's very doable. Problem is, you guys do the questions in, as they come. So that means that you can't really, manage your time effectively because some questions take longer than others, and you're gonna start panicking. Then if you panic, then you won't concentrate as much. Your performance goes downhill, and that's it. Yes, so a 9 in section 1 and 2 is 4 marks. So a 9 is about 25 to 27 marks in section 2. Then take away 2 marks for every grade below that. That's the good general rule of thumb. But sometimes it's 2 to 3 marks. So for 9s, 8s, and 7s, give it about 2 marks for every boundary, and then below that it's about 3 marks, or even 4 for like the 4s and 3s. So yeah. that is pretty much it. And for section 3, as I've said, you have half an hour to pick and write all of those questions. So remember, this year, the BMAT is on paper. Okay, let's look at the distribution for the BMAT for 2021. So what is the mean score, guy? No, well, I guess the mean is going to be hard to calculate. What is the mode score? What's the most common score that candidates get in the BMAT? Any ideas, guys? What's the most common score? Yes, so it is a 4. 4 and a 5 are quite similar, but there's a reason for this. So some of you might, who took the BMAT last year? Who actually took the BMAT last year? I'm going to see how many gap year students we have here. I'm going to explain the grading for section 3 in a second. Don't worry. I got you. But what happened to the BMAT last year, guys? Do you guys have any idea what happened? Because you might be thinking, this is weird. And this is very unusual as well. And this. Yes. So there were several sittings of the same test. So section 1 was used 3 times. So people took the exact same test 3 times. So there were loads of leaked questions, leaked answers in the forums, especially on the student room. So people cheated essentially, which is why I have so many students getting 8.5s and 9s. It's ridiculous how many students got in those scores. I wonder why no one got 8.0 or barely anyone got 8.0. More people got 9s and 8s. Yeah, cheers Cambridge assessments. You did your job really badly. But yeah, so this one happened this year because everyone is going to take the BMAT at the same time. Well, not really. Everyone's going to have different time zones. So it's going to be like 9 a.m. of your local time. So you'll sit your BMAT in Singapore at 9 a.m., in the US at 9 a.m., the Caribbean 9 a.m. Right. So your question is in the guide that I sent. So do you remember this guide that was last year? So you can find your answer to this question here on how many people get 9s in every year. But I'll answer regardless. I recommend looking at this guide. It's great because I've answered all those questions together asking for it. So about 1 to 5 students get 9 each year. Last year was about 10, 20 students. It was 2 to 4 times more students getting 9s than usual. Those are the cases that I've seen, not the cases that are because Cambridge Assessment doesn't really report the number of students that get 9s. But I've seen university getting many more students getting 9s than usual. For both NUS and Singapore, no, it's NTU. So the Nanyang Technology, Technological University, constantly, NTU. And you also have Oxbridge as well. So they had a really high number of people getting 9s, much higher than usual, which is, concerning. But yeah, point here is most students get 9s in most years. Let's ignore the anomalies because, at the end of the day, this won't happen again. But the average score is a 4. A 5 is a great score for Imperial and UCL. 6 is a great score for Oxbridge. 3s, you're guessing, it's the point where, it gets a bit dangerous. Would not recommend. And again, the difference between these scores is about 2 to 3 marks each. So it's not a lot, guys. It really isn't. There is not a big difference. So you have to be really careful here because it's not about how good you are at one question. It's all how quickly you get marks, essentially. So the point is, in 1 hour, how many marks can you get? It's not about can you get the whole test correct, because most people will not be able to. Sure, there are many talented students that get 9s. I would argue that getting a 9 is not hard as well. And the reason for this is most students are limited by information rather than their own ability. So let's see if you guys agree with me on this. So do you guys agree that you guys are being limited by info? So you struggle to actually find the question, like how do I answer this question, or it takes too long to answer because your whole method takes too long. have you guys been in this, situation before? Do you guys think that you're being, limited by info? Yeah, I would agree as well. From what I've seen, so you're being limited by you're not being limited by your own ability. You just don't know what to do. Like if you had all the time in the world, you could get 100%. So that means it's not about your ability. It's all about the guidance, unfortunately. And that's what I mean here, guys. Getting a 9 isn't really hard, but you have to know what to do, and you have to revise efficiently, because not only you have to revise efficiently, but you have to know when to revise. Because if you revise too early, then you're going to peak at before your tests. You want to be at a stage where, when you start preparing for your tests, around that season, you'll start peaking. So I recommend about 3 months because of that, because that gives you enough time to revise, so to learn something, to revise, and then also to do past papers, and also look back at your weaknesses and repeat. So that really gives you loads of time to really consolidate your knowledge as well. Right, I'm going to go back to that question, but that question has also been explained in the guide as well. If you look at like it's like one of the last questions. I go over that in quite a lot of depth. And it's really accurate as well. If you look at the guides, I explain that. Okay, section 2, same thing. It's like this bell curve. These results here are a bit dodgy, I would say. There are some results that I think are a bit dodgy in this curve. 6.5 and 7. These two results are horrendous. They should not be like this. And also, these are too low. They should be higher. 3 should be about 12% usually in your average year. So it's basically nearly half of what it should be. Like 1 in 5 students should not be getting the average, like the most common score. It really isn't. It's not wise, guys. It's really a bad idea. So Cambridge is definitely messed up. So what I recommend doing is go look back at the 2019 and 2018 explanation of results papers, because those were before COVID happened. So that gives you an idea of what exactly you should expect for this year, because you can't be looking at these graphs here for 2021 and 2020 when the circumstances are different. Also, I have a tip for you guys. So who's here? So are you guys good at typing? Yes or no? So can you type faster or can you write faster? Which one are you guys better at on the laptop? Are you guys better at typing or writing on paper? Okay. For those who prefer to type, you have an option. So you are able to request you can do section 3 on like your laptop, not your laptop, but like the school's laptop. So what I usually tell my students is, guys, do section 1 and 2 on paper, but then do section 3 on your laptop, on your word processor, because by doing that, you give yourselves some time to, you don't have like that space limits. So you can write about 300 words in the section 3 answer sheets, because like an A4 sheet. Whereas in like the word processor, you have like a 500 word limit. So you can write basically nearly twice as much. But remember, quality is not equals to quantity. But sometimes it can be, because you can add that second point, to make your answer stronger. So if you are better at typing, you can request to set section 3 on paper on your laptop. Apologies. So you have to talk with your exams officer. So if you go to a school, you just tell them, can I please sit section 3, only section 3, by the way, guys, because if it's section 1 and section 2, yeah, it's going to be you can do it, but it's going to be such a big pain. But yeah, you can ask. You must specify those. Say, I want section 3 to be taken on a word processor. say that you require it. And most of the time, if your exams officer is not lazy, they will let you do it. Sometimes they just can't be bothered. So, just bear that in mind as well. I've asked Cambridge Assessments, because I talk with them quite frequently, and they said you are allowed to set it on, laptop on section 3. So I'm not saying it, Cambridge Assessment did. So now someone asks, how does the marking work for section 3? So you guys maybe think, okay, so Martin, what the hell is this curve? Why is it like this? So we've talked about how this was a bell curve distribution, right? For section 1 and section 2. Yes or no, guys? Is it or is it not a bell curve for the first 2 sections? What do you guys think? Is it a bell curve? Well, it should be, but what do you guys think? Does it look like roughly a bell curve? No, it will not show in your records. Your university will not know about this. Do not worry, guys. It does not show. And you can ask Cambridge Assessment yourselves, but I've checked. It does not affect your application at all. You're just asking to do it in a different format. That's it. Because if you type faster, then you can see that writing might be limiting you. It's you're being limited by your writing speeds. So it can show your true ability if you're writing on a laptop. Nothing wrong with it. Most students are not aware of this option. I would say pretty much no one knows about this. But yeah. Okay, so for section 3, there is a reason why it's not a bell curve. Yes, you can opt for a laptop for section 3, not the first 2 sections. And even if you can, do not do it. You can have technical problems. And this year, no excuses. Yes, without educational needs. Also, I would argue that if you're being limited by your writing speeds and you're being limited, it's an educational need, regardless. It won't affect you. It just means that you're able to better demonstrate your ability. You're not being limited by writing. You can just do it if you're better at typing. It doesn't mean that you're worse or better than other students. It just means that you're able to type faster, so you can better demonstrate your ability. Because so for example, I have quite a large handwriting. As you guys can see, it's quite the handwriting. So I don't have loads of space to write. So you have less space to write on paper. Nope. Well, if you have a small handwriting, and I've tried this before, you can try this by the way, but I would say you can write up to 400 words if you have really small handwriting. And there is a point where your examiners won't be able to read your handwriting if it's too small, and they just mark it as 0. So you have to be careful with that as well. Don't write this, because then they won't be able to read it. Because if you're writing some cursive that they can't read, then that's a problem. Well, that is a great question. From my gathered, you don't need to. You can just ask them to do it. It's nothing to do with special education needs. It has nothing to do with it. Well, yes, but it's more of an optional thing. Some people just prefer it, but I guess you can argue that dosing on the computer will make everyone else disadvantaged. But at the end of the day, guys, it's a whole game. If you're better at typing, why can't you just type? It's a game. Play the admissions game. If it's there, then it's for you to use it. It's there so you can use it. So yeah, right. I'm going to go back to those questions in a second. However, I want to talk about something. So section 3 is not marked based on the distribution. So theoretically, everyone can get 5s. Are we all surprised, guys? So what if I tell you that everyone could get 5s? Like 100% of candidates could get 5s. It is possible. Well, it will never happen, but do you guys know why? Because section 3 is not marks as a bell curve. You're not being compared to everyone else. You're being like, it's like an essay band. So they are not limited to the number of students. Like if loads of students in that year do really well in the essay, they can just give them high grades. It has nothing to do with the number of students. You're not being compared to other applicants. You're being graded on the band. So if you fit on a band, you'll be put on that band. So you're not limited by what other candidates did. Whereas in section 1 and section 2, it's a whole bell curve. So that does matter, which is why you see this kind of curve here in section 3. It's because it doesn't matter what other students get. It matters where you fit into their bands. And yeah, so 5 is like this really good, well thought out philosophical essay, and then A is like good quality of English. You have good spag. So spag for an A. So if you guys got a 6 or a B if you're from Wales and Northern Ireland, or if you have like I think it's a 5 in national 5s in Scotland with the SQA, then you should be fine. If you did English in the UK in year 11 and you passed it, I can't see why you wouldn't get an A. I'll be really surprised. Okay, so what are the biggest errors that candidates make during preparation? So the first error is they start preparing, they don't prepare as soon as possible. So it takes a lot of time to master the BMATs. So strategy-wise, I want you guys to guess how many hours does it take to master BMAT strategies, in your opinion? So that is, things that apply to the whole tests, things that are question specific, and things that are like specific to some chunks, for example, subject specific. So how long does it take for you to master, or even not even master, just learn strategies, all of them, or at least most of them in the BMAT? Any ideas, guys? How long does it take to learn them? Strategies-wise, how many hours? So I'm not talking about questions. I'm not talking about content. Just strategies, like what you have to do in different questions. Someone said 50. Someone said 6. Someone said 20. 125. Well, it takes you about 30 hours to learn strategies. That does not include, so this year it took me 32 hours to teach all the strategies to my students. So that was for section 1, section 3, section 2, and section 3. So strategies by itself, the thing is that was not even with practice. That was just telling them, okay, so that's what you do in these questions. I went over that question, then we give them examples. So yeah, just strategies by themselves, 30 hours. It takes a lot of time to master the BMAT. The thing is, with the UCATs, it's more of a luck test. You have everyone has different questions. You can have different sets. If you're lucky, then you're going to get some that play with your own strengths in the test state. But it's just a bit. Yeah, so that is correct. So it should be mentioned that you don't lose marks when you get something right, when you get something wrong, or you don't answer something in section 2 and section 1. So if you get, it doesn't have negative marking, so you can only have positive marking. So if you guys do the IMAT, which is like the International Medical Admissions Tests for Italy, if you do the IMAT, it has negative marking. So you get 5 points when you get the question correctly, and you get 1 point taken off when you get something wrong. So yeah, in the BMAT, you get a mark when you get something right. That's about it. If you don't answer something, or if you get something wrong, you won't be affected by this. Right, so make sure you practice under time conditions as well. Also, make sure you read the section 2 assumed knowledge guides. It is the most important resource you can have, because That is the official guide that the BMAT examiners, so the chief subject writers at Cambridge Assessments, they wrote that guide. So it has everything that you need for the exam. Make sure you can apply that knowledge as well. Don't just memorize it, because the BMAT is not testing your knowledge, it's testing your ability to think on the spot based on what you've learned. And finally, exam strategy. So skipping is fine. So if a question takes too long, make sure you just guess and move on. It's better to get 3 easy marks than getting 1 hard mark. Again, they don't care if you can answer a really hard question. What they care about is being able to get as many marks as possible. So do you guys remember in GCSE maths? So I'm not sure if some of you had this problem before, but some people would get good grades by just getting the easy questions right. They could not do surds, they could barely do geometry and circle theorems, but they still got a good grade. Do you guys know anyone like this? Or were you guys this person? So that person though would get good grades but didn't know the hard questions. Or there was the opposite as well. So people could do the hard questions but couldn't do the easy examples and ended up getting like a decent grades. So yeah, that is the exact same thing here. Do not bother to get a question right if it's hard. Like, your goal is to get marks. You don't care if it's easy or hard. It should be easy for you. Don't make your life harder than it has to be for this test. Also, I want to show you guys this statistic here, which is, look at the number of first-time applicants and reapplicants since 2016. So 17,000 to 24,000. You had 2,000 people taking a gap year. Now it's 4.4K taking gap year. Doubles. And you might be thinking, okay, so, whoa, what does this mean for my application? It means that you are now competing against more people for your own places. So if you didn't get in, you have a foundation. Like, you went through the BMAT, you went through the UCATs, like, you know how to revise, you've made errors, you know what to do. You guys are competing against 4,000 people competing for your places. That is literally the number of places for like BMAT schools, give or take. So not all of them will apply for BMAT universities, but a really good number of them will. And that's a problem. So that's what I mean, guys. You have to prepare early, because you are competing against people who have already been through the process and they really want to get those places because they took a gap year and they don't care what it takes to get in. You guys are competing against those students. You're competing against like people who got scholarships at the best schools, who have best supports available as well. So remember this, guys. There are loads of people. So they'll have different A levels. They'll have different. Some of them have A levels. Some of them have the IB. Some of them have the Le Bac, which is the French baccalaureate. They have the European baccalaureate. They have pre-U's as well. Well, not anymore, I guess. Well, the pre-U's are still offered. It's going to be scrapped well, this year. But yeah, so you're going to have pre-U's, you have SATs, ACTs as well, you have APs if you're American, HKDSE if you are from Hong Kong, etc. So there's like different qualifications. And how do you actually, let's think about this. I'm an admissions officer. How do I know who's the best for my university? Because I want the best people to be doctors. Well, what if everyone has different examples, different exams? How do you get different grades? How do you compare them with that one test, the BMAT, or the UCAT? But so think about admissions tests as a way to stand out from the crowd. Don't see it as a hurdle to try to eliminate you from this, competition. See it as an opportunity. Show your true potential to the admissions tutors, because those who show that they deserve a place, those people will be rewarded with a place most of the time. So the BMAT plays a role in both the interview stage, like shortlisting, and the offer holder stage. So some people think that after you do the BMAT, your interviews, it doesn't matter. Well, that's not true. I've been told by some admission tutors at Oxbridge, also at Imperial as well, that during offer holder stage, they look at your BMAT score and your interview score, and then they pick whoever they want. So if you have a good interview score and a poor BMAT, then that's a bit of the. It depends how low as well. If it's like a 3, then you might be in trouble. Whereas if someone has like a decent interview but really good score, they will probably get an offer. Most likely, I've seen students. There is a point where if you get like 8s and 9s or even 7s, you're pretty much guaranteed to get in. Like you have to mess up the interview quite badly. So yeah, the BMAT plays a big role in admissions. Okay, so let's do some questions now because I've been talking loads, but let's actually do some problem solving now, shall we? Okay, so let's do some problem solving. Fine. So how long will it take before they all flash at the same time again? Okay, so there's 3 lights that flash at the same time. So same time means t equals 0. T equals 0. So you're starting from that t equals 0 point. So 3 lighthouses are visible from the promenades at Rivermouth. One flashes every 90 seconds, or 1.5 minutes. Another flashes every 2 minutes, and the third flashes every 50 seconds. Okay, so you have 1.5, 3, 4.5, and 6. Second one, 2, 4, and 6. So every 6 minutes, light 1 and light 2 will flash at the same time. So every 6 minutes, light 1, light 2 will flash. However, with light 3, it flashes every 50 seconds. So 50. A minutes and 40 seconds. 2 minutes and 50 seconds. 3 minutes and 20 seconds. 4 minutes and 10 seconds. And then 5 minutes. So we have a whole number to work with now. So every 5 minutes, lights 3 will flash. So we have to look at, so we know that every 5 minutes, light 3 flashes. And every 6 minutes, light 1 and light 2 flash as well. So in order to look at the, in order to know what time they'll flash again at the same time, you just do 6 times 5. Which is essentially like the lowest common multiple. So that's 30. And the answer is D. So some of you are confused, which is totally fine. So let's work here. So let's say you have a light and it flows, so it flashes at t equals 0. So when you start the clock, they'll flash, okay? And then light 2 flashes every 2 minutes. So 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, okay? L2, it flashes at t equals 0, t equals 1.5, t equals 3, t equals 4.5, t equals 6, t equals 7.5, t equals 9, t equals 10.5, and t equals 12. So can you see how every 6 minutes, so 6, 12, 6, 12, light 1 and light 2, they both flash at the same time. Right? Yes. So you do the exact same thing with this. So 50 seconds. But the thing is, we don't want to work in seconds because that is a really awkward thing to work with. But what you can do as well is, if you love maths, you can just do this. So 50 seconds. So there's 50 over 60 minutes, which is 5 over 6. Well, so I guess you can just do like times 6. It's going to be every 5 minutes. But I would not recommend. Okay, so it's 50 over 60. Right, I want to get rid of this bit. Okay, so 50 seconds, 1 minute and 40 seconds, 2 minutes and 30 seconds, 3 minutes and 20 seconds, 4 minutes and 10 seconds, and 5 minutes. So every 5 minutes, light 3 will flash. So the reason why I did this is because I want to have a whole number in this. Because if it's seconds and minutes, then it gets really awkward to work with. So every 5 minutes, light 3 flashes, and every 6 minutes, lights 1 and 2 flash. So we have to look at essentially the lowest number where both of these numbers overlap, which is just 6 times 5, which is 30. Therefore, the answer is D. Any questions on this question here? Any questions? Right, so I assume that people don't have any more questions. Okay, so next question. So for which of, okay, so let's see if we do most questions. So what do we see here, guys? We have two numbers that are the same, right? So we have two percentages or proportions or ratios that are the same. So these two numbers are the same, right? So that's going to be x, x, 2x, and 4x, and 4x. Do you guys agree with me? So we have, so this is a third, this is a third, and these two will make a third afterwards. So it's 1/6, and this is 1/12, 1/12. So you have to look at a number which essentially gives you these results. So you have to have two numbers which are the same twice. So this is equal to this, and this is equal to this. So you have two small numbers, one medium number, it's not large, it's not small, it's in the middle, and you have two large numbers which are the same. So let's just skim read through this, and also we must okay. So let's just do this. So also, well, these the small one is, so the medium is 2 times bigger than the small one, and large is 2 times bigger than the large. So there must be multiples too, essentially. So you must be able to times them by 2. That's the point here. So 20, 20, 30, 30. Well, 20 times 2 is 40. It's not 30. So because of this number here. And then 40 times 2 is going to be 80. So that's not possible. So this one is not a plausible answer. Okay, so 10, 30, 30, 50, and 50. Again, not really. Not very convincing. Because this is the same as this. So 10 plus, well, you have one small number and two medium numbers, which also doesn't make sense. Okay, Clive. So 60, 15, 30, 45, and 75. They're all different. Nope. Now we have Shan. So 20, 20, 20. So 3 numbers which are the same and 2 big ones. But this one is not the same as these 2. So therefore, the answer is Dolly. That is basically your data analysis skill. So you have loads of questions which are like these in the test. So they can be flight costs, they can be trip costs. So they're usually money related. But this kind of question shows up loads of times in BMAT. It's ridiculous how many times I've seen this question before, just in different formats. So you get a table with prices. So yeah, the whole skill behind problem solving is just this. Problem solving is one of those types where you can't really teach how to answer the question. Instead, I'm giving you the skills. So this is going to be, I'll do this quickly for those who like maths. X, X, 2x, 4x, 4x, X, X. This is not 2x, so incorrect, incorrect, and this is 2x. 4x is missing. Okay, so Brian, whatever. So X, 2x, 4x, 4x, and 2x, incorrect. Clive, there's just nothing here. There's just X, 2x, 4x, and then 2 random numbers, incorrect. Dolly, X, x, 2x, 4x, and 4x. That's correct. This one just x, 2x, x, 2x, and x. So for this like maths, that is the easiest way to go about it as well. So yeah. Okay, so segment resources. Make sure that you make the most out of them as well. So what are the best ways to prepare is, you might be thinking, okay, so you might want to go to visit my YouTube channel. Sometimes I post videos there. I made them all hidden at the moment because I was remaking some of these videos, but I was a bit busy. I ended up not remaking them, but you might see some videos there. Just subscribe if you want to. Also, r/BMAT exam, that is where I give some advice. We also have a WhatsApp group chat if you want to join that. Segment surgeries, if you want to get some advice like this, it's just, I'm going to be here for like all the BMAT sessions. So, if you want some BMAT help, then, I'll be here. Also, Segment has some group chats, so you can join the WhatsApp group chats, the Discord server, or you can just go to like the main website as well if you want to. So if you want to invest into your preparation as well, guys, don't think of it as spending money on preparing. Think of it as investments. Education is going to be your future, and if you can spend it, go for it. Because at the end of the day, would you rather regret it and take a gap year? Like a lot of people you don't have to. No, you don't have to. But sometimes it really helps because some teachers really benefit from it. Because some people don't know what to do. It really depends on how much support you get. For example, if you get loads of support, I mean, school's amazing, then, perhaps you don't need to. But even then, I've met people from like the best schools. So there would be Oxford International College, who gets tutors as well, because they still think that they need more supports and they find it useful. So yeah, also you can go to courses as well. You can get BMAT Ninja, the 6 masterclasses, and BMAT bundles. Also, sometimes I make reviews as well. You can find them on a subreddit. And yeah, do you guys have any questions? Any questions, guys? It's time for the Q&A. So someone asked, are there any harder questions? Well, I tried not to use many of the harder questions because you'll be going over those in past papers, and I don't want to spoil those kind of questions, if it makes sense. I think if you haven't started preparing, and most of you haven't, it's not wise for me to go over some really hard questions when you don't even have the knowledge and the skills to answer the easy ones, if it makes sense. Some people need the foundations before we go over those. Sure. I'll post that in a second. Right. So, okay. So let me just send you guys a link to the surgeries and the Discord server. So that is the link for. Okay, so I think I might have to send this to my. Okay, so 1 second. Okay, so chats. Okay, so why can't I send this? Everyone, there we go. So that is the link for the Discord server for 6med. And I'm also an admin there as well. So if you want to DM me as well, then I'll be there as well. Okay. So if someone is a graduate and has the basic knowledge already, do you think it's easier for them to grasp the BMAT content? Well, yes and no. The problem is, it depends. So, for example, what is a degree? Because if it's biomed, then you might find biology easier. But that means that you haven't done physics for, I would say, 5 years if you haven't done A-level physics. So if you've done natural sciences, then it should be fine. Like if you did natural science at Cambridge, but apart from that, there's going to be always some knowledge gaps. Sure, you might find it easier. However, still, it's a difference. For example, if you did bio for your degree, you might find physics hard. If you did maths with chemistry, you might find biology harder because you haven't done bio for a while. So it really depends. So as a good rule of thumb, it is easier, but not that much. It won't give you a big advantage. I have students. So I actually have 2 students as well. So one of them is applying to Oxford's AO101. Another is applying for, well, they were applying for like the same thing, I guess. But that's not really decided, but they're applying for mostly A101 courses. They did 2 different degrees. So one of them is doing biomedical sciences. The other one is doing genetics or something around those science. And yeah, epigenetics is what it's called, epigenetics. And both of them they find biology so easy, but then when I started working with them, their physics was terrible. So we had to go over pretty much all the physics again from scratch, because what they knew, the thing is, once you know something but you don't know it enough, it's actually worse, because if you've learned something but you don't know it well enough, you're actually overestimating your knowledge. For example, you might be thinking, okay, so this looks familiar, I know it. Well, no. So I would argue that you're in the worst position in arguably, because you know the content. Like if you look at it, you're just like, oh yeah, it's all coming back to my head. But no, you probably don't remember the equations. You can't really apply the knowledge because it has been so long that you just don't remember it, which is fine. It happens, so common. But you have to be very careful with that, because do not be overconfident, because it's not about how much you've memorized it. It's about being able to apply what you know. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. Okay, so I feel that I don't have a chance to do well on BMAT because I haven't begun to prepare yet, and I have the UCAT this December, which I'm reluctant to take now. Do you have any advice? Okay, so yes, I have advice. Can I just ask, have you done any papers for the BMATs? Like, have you done both? Do you know what the biggest error is? By the way, I haven't answered your question in a lot of detail on this guide that I've made. So if you go here, I've answered this. If you should take the UCATs or not. But I'll summarize it. So most students, in schools as well, you know what they do? They're like, okay, so take the UCATs, then take the BMATs. Well, do you really have to? Also, are you good at the UCAT? Because, for example, I hate the UCATs. Nothing against tests, but I did well in it, don't get me wrong. I got 830 in verbal reasoning. And then my keyword was terrible. But point is, some people do well on some tests, some people don't. And that's fine. You don't have to be good at everything. No one is. That's why we have specialties in medicine. So, if you're better at BMATs, do the BMATs. Because at this stage, why would you be working for a test that you're not even good at? Because you have 6 weeks, 6-7 weeks. You can be using that time to work for your best tests. So if you have a better ability, if you're better naturally at the BMATs, why would you try 10 times harder for the UCATs when you would have much greater returns for the BMATs? And I've been saying this for a month now in my subreddits. Some people, they want to do the UCATs because the school told them to. The thing is, it's not risky to apply to 4 BMAT universities. Do you know what's risky? Applying to Oxford, Cambridge, Imperial. That is risky. Those are not the only BMAT universities. You have Leeds, you have Lancaster, you have BSMS. BSMS asks for freeze. So you guys should start looking at what is your strength. So my advice to you is, do a BMAT paper, do a UCAT paper. Which one do you score higher in? Which one do you find the easiest? Which one do you find the easiest to revise? And then go for it. Also, at this stage, if you want to start preparing for, the BMAT at this stage, I would advise getting help from someone. And I'm not saying this because I'm a tutor, but I generally think and I generally believe that tutoring makes a difference. I love like how loads of like admission tutors, they just say, those courses don't help. I've talked with some of the Oxford academics behind the scenes, and they say, oh yes, it does help, but we just don't want to say it because then they'll feel like they have to buy courses. The problem is most courses aren't helpful because they use strategies which do not work in the real test, and that's the problem here. Is that you're paying for something that the examiners already know that you're relearning. So they use something. They make the questions in a way which allows you can't reuse those methods you've been taught. So I would say that the BMAT market is a really big mess at the moment, and this is because there was a change in the test structure in 2019 to 2020. They changed the way they make questions, and a lot of people haven't really caught up with it yet. So yeah, just bear that in mind. Do you have any other questions, guys? Anything else that you want me to go over? Do BMAT universities do any cutoff scores like the UCATs? Well, yes. And there's a good point there. So people say, oh, when I do the UCATs, I have my score. But the thing is, you don't know what the cutoff is going to be for that university. You have a good estimate, but can you really know? Because what can happen is everyone that does well in the UCAT, they're just like, oh, this university is like an easy choice to get into. So they apply to that university because they have great chances. Those people were like 3,000s plus in the UCAT. And then what happens is, those who were able to get into the university last year are no longer able to get into that university this year. So that's why I say the UCAT is not any safer than BMAT, because sure, you know your score, but do you really know what score like the cutoff university need? Because, for example, maybe the year before the universities gave out too many offers, which happens because of COVID. So that means that they'll give out less spaces. And so less spaces means, higher cutoff scores. So the UCAT is not any safer. People say that BMAT is, risky because you don't have your score. And then what? What matters? You don't know what the cutoff score will be. For all you know, it can be really low. This has no difference whatsoever. The only difference is in one of them, you know your score, but you don't know the cutoff. The second one is you don't know your score and you don't know your cutoff. No difference for a weekend. It's still like a shot in the dark for all purposes. Okay, so top tips for overall applications to Oxford's for biomeds. Okay, so for biomeds, do further reading. That's the number one key because if you're biomed, make sure that you know what the course actually entails. Because if you're applying, remember at Oxford you have loads of essays. I would say it's like a very humanities-ish university, whereas Cambridge is more sciencey. Make sure that you want to breathe biomed for the next 3 years, because it's tough. It is quite tough. It's a very rewarding. Also, for biomeds, make sure that you do really well in BMAT because BMAT is equals importance as in medicine. Also, don't think it's easier just because biomeds. Biomeds at Oxford's is, I would say, nearly as hard as medicine at Imperial or UCL. Like in terms of getting in, it's not a joke. It's pretty tough to get into biomed at Oxford's, and people will just assume this biomed so it's going to be easier. No, not at all. It's still very hard because people who want to go there, they really want to go there. What do you think has majorly changed in preparation for the BMATs from last year to this year based on your tutoring? Is there something specific you suggest? Okay, so major changes. So questions have gotten a lot longer. So do you guys remember this method? And I'm going to use it in the future surgery because that's the method that it's in the curriculum. But so over there, if A, then B. Have you guys seen this? I believe that you might have seen it from the section 1 video from Ali, maybe in some course, from even like the guides, any guides. Have you guys seen the methods for like logical form for critical thinking? Okay. Do you guys think that this works in new papers? Like, do you guys think that, well, in the past, you had like 3-4 lines, maybe 6 if it was an annoying question for critical thinking. Nowadays, most questions like 6, 8, or even 12 lines long. I've seen some which are even longer for critical thinking. So, like, do you think it's going to be efficient for such a long question? Yeah, you have a minute and 53 seconds to do that question. Do you really think that you have time to do this for all of them? And then after you do all of the structure, then you have to look at the answers and determine which one is the conclusion or the premise or the assumption, whatever. Do you think this is going to work? No, that's the. So you have to think a bit more outside of the box in terms of this, because the methods work. However, they'll make you run out of time. I would say that your biggest enemy is literally relying on methods that are being taught online, because those methods were made in 2013 for like, because I'm not sure if you guys know the whole history, but most courses started in 2013 to 2016. So, and then some companies just copy them from each other. It's great. But yeah, so as I was saying, yeah, it's tough because you have to. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to give you everything that I know because firstly, some students will not be happy if I do, some schools, but also just because it's not fair, and also the more people know it, the less, like, the more likely the examiners are to know that this is being taught, and then it's not going to work anymore. It's going to get harder and harder. So there's going to be a stage where it's going to get too hard. So I try to keep them relatively safe, but in terms of preparation, the questions got harder, but they haven't gotten harder as in like concept-wise. They are just longer. They take longer to do. Yeah, it takes a lot longer to know what to do as well. They require a lot more skill. In the past, it was just like one step. Like, if you look at the question for like 2014, section 2, 2019, section 2, how many steps do you have for the questions? You had one step, maybe 2 for like an equation. Now, 2020 and 2021, you had 2, 3, or even 4 steps in questions. They doubled in length. You have to do twice as much work in the same time frame. So my biggest advice is be very careful with what you've been taught. Also, this is like the guide that I talked about. A lot of students and like from like university, they'll say, okay, so I go to Oxbridge, I got 7, I'm going to teach you how to BMAT. No, just because someone has a good score and someone has, they went to a good university, that doesn't mean that they are good at the tests. They can be good at the test, but even then, they could have gotten lucky. They could have guessed. Also, just because you got like a good score doesn't mean that you're good at teaching. So, for example, what do you guys get in English GCSE? So, English language. What was your grades? So, do you guys remember what was your grades for English language? Okay. Do you guys think that you can help someone to get that grades? Do you think you're qualified to help someone to get the exact same grade as you? Do you think you can go to class and be like, "This is how you do it"? That's what I mean here. Just because someone got into Oxbridge and has a good score doesn't mean they can help you get there. And that's the biggest difference between someone who knows their stuff and someone who does tutoring just for extra cash. So question who your teacher is. What are his success rates? Does he have references? All the things we have. So, that is just something that I would like to leave this note on. Be very careful on the strategy you use. They can really help your score, or they can hurt your score. Sometimes students are better off without strategies because at least they don't have that whole distracting thing. Like, I've seen students decrease their score because they went from their intuition to methods which actually just slow him down. And then we had to walk over again because I looked at them and I was like, okay, so you've learned this, forget all about it. This is how you do it. And those are the hardest students to teach because they've learned something and they're it's instilled in their mind, it's like muscle memory. And working with them is the most challenging because they have to unlearn something and you have this time frame where you have to make them exam ready. So yeah, be very careful with what you learn. So when you get taught something, think, can I actually apply this in the exam? Is this too long? Is this going to slow me down? So yeah, that is my final advice. Any final questions, guys, before we just end the session? Any final comments? Yep. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so the contact details of 6med are here. So if you have any questions, team@6med.co.uk. If you want to email me for whatever reason, that's mine here. So yeah, that is all that I have to talk about. I would highly recommend looking at the Q&A, frequently asked questions, because I think it's quite helpful. It took me quite a lot of time to write that, and I generally think it's really helpful. Really helps you to put into perspective what's actually going on with tutoring, because there's a lot of books. I'm not sure if you guys ever bought any BMAT book, but they have so many errors, and it gets so annoying sometimes. They have errors. The questions don't even look like a BMAT question. Sometimes just I've seen it all. Honestly, I've seen it all. But yeah. Any burning questions before we end the session? Any burning sessions, guys? Yes or no? Right. In that case, I'm going to end the session. So thank you guys for attending this session, and I really hope that you find it helpful. We'll have a second session next Sunday, which will be on critical thinking. So bye, guys.